Okay, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to run one sweep here with the Dr. Mix, and then we'll play some music, see if it follows the same pattern. And the next thing I might try is putting an attenuator on the mid-ranges. I've got a little 2 ohm resistor that I might be able to put on there.
Hi, welcome to Dr. Mix. This is a signal test for you. Enjoy. If you want to know more about our mixing and mastering services, please visit us on drmix.com. See you later.
All right, so now we're just going to listen to some music and see if it follows that same pattern of the frequency response that you see. Everything to the left of that line is the woofer. This is all mid-range, and then right about here is a tweeter. All right, so I'll do my best so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so this is what I'm talking about. This is our crossover. So we've got our mid-ranges hooked up right here. This is the positive lead to the mid-range. All right, so what I'm going to show you here is me figuring out kind of the values. And I wound up Googling this. I found this at the12volt.com. Yeah. High pass, low pass. All right. This is our high pass, low pass. And all we really want to do is we want to find out what our value might be if our impedance is 8 ohms, and that's a rough number, but that's what this crossover was built around, was 8 ohms. And the frequency that we're shooting for, well, let's say, for example, the 800 that it is now, right? We put in 800, and we say equals, all right? And we're just looking at what a first order would be. So the capacitor would be roughly 25 microfarads for 800. Now, if I want everything that's over, say, 200 hertz or 250 hertz, what would that look like? Okay, now we're up into the 80 range here. Now, if all we're doing is changing a capacitor, it will likely have some influence on the rest of the crossover network as well. But what I'm interested in just focusing on letting enough lower frequencies get up into that mid-range area to where the mid-range speaker will play them back. Now after the mid-range with the tweeter, that doesn't matter because it's already got its capacitor in line to filter out those low frequencies going to that. So that's basically what I want to do, is I want to change what's in there. 6.8 and 12.0. So it's 18.8 that's in there now. So let's just play around with this a little bit, and let's say we got, oh, maybe it's letting everything over 800, 500. Let's try 500 hertz. All right, so as the frequency goes down, the value of the capacitors needed goes up. So if we want, say, 1,000 hertz. All right, so now we're in our 19 range, closer to where, this crossover is letting pretty much anything that's over 1,000 go upstairs. So if I add to that, what did we need to make the 200? We needed almost 100 to go at 200. All right, so basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding values together. All right, so if I pop open my calculator, and we're looking to get close to 100, let's say. So we've got our 99.47 minus the values that are in there. So right now we would need about 80.67 microfarads. We can use this 80 microfarad, and I do have two of them. All right, so what I'm going to do with these guys, and I know it's not a poly cap, but it's sharing the load with the poly caps. And for right now, I just want to see what it does to the frequency response. But by adding this in there, we should wind up allowing more low frequencies to go to the mid-range. So let's get started. Okay, so while my soldering iron's heating up, I'm going to kind of plan this, and we're going to be going across like that. So we're going to be tying it in with these. So I'm just going to put a little tiny connection here and on this side of the capacitor. Actually, I might use this one since they're sticking out a little bit more. That's where I'm going to mount these at. It's right across there. All right, so here's what I've got going on so far. Is that I've got a little bit of solder just wrapped around the ends, and then I've got that end, I just tweaked it a little bit with a pair of pliers so that the solder doesn't slide off of there. And on each side, I'm just going to go ahead and quickly heat that up with the soldering iron so that it melts onto that. This side is good. Yep, that's fairly sturdy. So for right now, I'm just going to run it like this. It's not touching anything, so it's not going to vibrate or make noise. Now, if it works, I'll probably secure it to those other capacitors. So let's put the woofer back in and see what happens. Woofer's back in, and this is the cabinet with that capacitor in it. So I'll go ahead and get this set up and do a sweep on it and see what happens. Did close that up a little bit. That's interesting. Let's see what it looks like compared to the other speaker. That's the left speaker. And the right speaker. Left, right. Mainly what I'm interested in is this area. Alright, so that's the speaker with the capacitor in it. And we've got this suck out at 217. But if you remember, we were battling one in the 300 range, which it did pick that up. So let's set this guy here at this one's low point at -80. The rest of it is all up here, you know, say plus minus 10 dB between 60 and 70. But let's just see what happens with the other speaker hooked up. Still got that suck out right there, but it's got another one here. And this area in here, I want to watch that because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that the speaker with the capacitor picked that area up. Let's just see. I'm just trying to show you the area we're talking about. So I think it actually did achieve what I was trying to achieve. Can we take it any further? It's possible. Done this much. Maybe adding another capacitor might even correct that a little bit more. So let's try that. So I have these two at my disposal. I've got a 10 microfarad and an 8 microfarad, or together 18 microfarad. Let's go back to our calculator. Our calculation for 200 resulted in roughly 100, which is what we're running. So we should have enough to make about 165 crossover at 165. All right, we'll get these guys on there and see what happens. All right, I'll show you what I got going on now. So I've got these two together. I've got them tinned, so I've got a little bit of solder on the end. Got this guy pushed down where I could see it better. I'm gonna curl up the end a bit here, and then wrap it around this guy, and then solder it. All right, so that's in there. Pretty ugly, I know. But it'll get hot glued in place. I've got a sneaky suspicion it might just work well. And where should I put this guy? How about right there? Something like that, huh? And then while I'm at it, I might as well reinforce these mounting holes. This one especially has gotten really rounded out. Get this one a double pump. That was really bad. Just trying to connect these guys. Slide those little plastic guys back over it, make it look pretty. Set this guy down. Still have kind of a suck out here. So that is that speaker. This is the left speaker. That's what we just did to it. So it looks like we did pick that up. So I'm very curious to see what a full sweep looks like now. Let's go ahead and reset this. So there's no getting away from this. That suck out there. The only way to get away from that would be to raise this bass up higher, or to attenuate this more. But this is actually looking pretty good. Let's try a long sweep. Okay. So if we expand this out in 5 dB increments, this is what we look like. When we smush it back down to the 10 that we're used to looking at, this is what it looks like. So this portion in here now of the upper mid bass is kicking in much stronger than it was before. And just to show you the difference, I'll go ahead and hook up that other speaker. See, I'm watching the whole thing, because whenever you change one part of a crossover, there's going to be other ones that are affected as well. So by changing one component in that crossover, you can ultimately change the way the entire thing looks. And I'll try to kind of demonstrate that. And what is our most critical areas here? This one here, we're down. And then from this region to this region, compared to the rest of this, we drop down by as much as minus 10 dB, let's say. Of course, that's the extreme. That's here, 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 you know. And this whole rest of it seems to be on this negative 70 line. All right, let's see what happens when we run the other speaker now. So I'll run one sweep with this baseline there to see if it changes it and where it changes it. I'm expecting it to get picked up in this area. And if I'm not mistaken, possibly that area too. So we were down by 10 dB here, from here to here. We were down by 10 dB. Now it's way up. It's even higher. You know, it's almost reverse of what it was. This area still the same. I don't see all the suck outs there. I have this one suck out here and another suck out there. So I wasn't able to bridge that gap for some reason, which is pretty interesting to me. The only other thought that I had was actually running that woofer direct, which is another possibility. I've tried that before. Didn't seem to make a whole heck of a lot of difference, but that was way back when I first started running these. But at this point, what I'm kind of curious about is listening to them like this and hearing them, what they sound like with both of them together. And I also did promise you at least one frequency response sweep with it up off the floor. So I'll go ahead and do that now. That'll give us kind of a baseline for each of these speakers. So it's about 19.5 inches. Why 19.5? Why not? And let's go ahead and run a sweep and see what happens. Let's see what the other speaker does. And that's the speaker, the one that's modified. some reason it's actually louder on the top end too. So minus 60 is like our loudest level. And now we're kind of raising that bar pretty significantly too. It's pretty interesting. Well, let's measure them together like we did before, okay? And see what they do together. First thing I gotta do is I gotta install these. So maybe I'll just go ahead and I'll zip through that really quick and then set everything back up, and we'll get to testing both speakers. Letting the glue gun heat up, and I figured this might be a good time to talk to you about a few of the things that I've also considered as far as I'm trying to alter or improve the bass. One of them was to take more insulation and put it in the box. There's a theory that goes that if you add insulation into an enclosure, it acts like there's more volume in the cabinet than there really is. Some type of a thermal reaction with the sound waves as they create friction and heat across the fibers of like the polyester fill. So that's the theory. There's been guys on YouTube that have tested it that I've mentioned before. What they found is that yes, indeed, it can lower the bass by stuffing more into it, but it also can lower the decibel level of the bass too. So even though it gives you a lower bass response, like subsonic, if you have a large enough driver, it also tends to take the rest of the curve and bring that down. I'm not pursuing that because even though, yeah, it'd be cool to have more bass, but honestly, these go subsonic anyway. I mean, these are hitting 20 hertz, 23 hertz, like no problem, right? I think that the low bass really isn't my problem. What I'm looking for is a little bit more punch in the mid bass region. Hoping that by utilizing more of this full range speaker's capability, that I'll add that to it, because like I said, this is actually, it's not a dedicated mid-range, it's a PA full range speaker. So I think its usable frequency response is something like 100 to 15,000 or something like that. So I'm definitely chopping it off at the upper end, but that's okay, because if you look at the frequency response of this driver, once it gets past 5,000, off axis is not so great on it. And plus, if you start bringing up, say if I were to do the same thing I did on the bottom end with the tweeter, where I bring more of the tweeter into the mid-range region, or more of the mid-range into that tweeter region, the higher frequencies have a tendency to comb filter much quicker than large bass waves. So the fact that I'm trying to get, stuff from whatever 300 hertz down, a little more fill from 300 hertz to like that 80 hertz range, I'm not super concerned about comb filtering on that. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of cover that. Oh, the other thing was too, is I can change the bass reflex port tuning by increasing the length of it. And I considered that too, but honestly, it still has like a hump right around 40 hertz where I want that that high end to be, or I want the bass to be the loudest toward that 40 hertz range, because that's where the bass is really audible. So once you get below that, especially below 35 and 30 hertz, it's subsonic, which means you can't necessarily hear it as much as you can feel it. I've got that end covered fairly well. I'm just really looking for some punch. Now, I could go get an elbow. I could go get another piece of pipe, try to make that port longer just to see what would happen. The most hopeful thing I believe might happen from it is it would force this woofer to pull itself down more into the lower frequencies, which in turn may or may not stretch that frequency kind of like a rubber band. But it could backfire on me too, and it could just create like a subwoofer, like a really deep subwoofer with all of a sudden a giant void where it's supposed to transition to mid-range, and I don't want that to happen. So right now, I think I'm good. Piggybacking these capacitors on here, which forces that mid-range to work a little harder, to put out more mid-bass frequencies. I'll try that, listen to it for a while, sweep it of course, and see how that turns out. All right, mission accomplished. So I've got the caps piggybacked on the crossover on this one, so that it should sound the same as the other one. It should, measure the same. I'll test them and see. But they are hooked up as a pair now. So we're ready to do some testing. I'm interested to see what happens with them, with both of them combined like this. So that's our frequency response from one speaker, and now we're going to do both of them. Well, both of them together, it looks pretty good. This will be the right speaker. We're pretty good. We still got a bit of a null in here, but we have picked up a lot of this in the middle. All right, let's try, was it the left or the right? Let's see. Okay, left. Right. Okay. Play the music.
Wonder this time where she's gone. I wonder if she's gonna stay. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and she's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away, yeah. It's And I know. Well, I leave those things alone. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Yeah, always not warm when she's away. There ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and she's always come too long. When she goes away, and I wonder this time where she's gone. Wonder if she's gonna stay. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and this house is single. Anytime she goes away, give it down, man. Sunshine when she's gone, and I want when she's away. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, but she's always come too long. Goes away. Yes, anytime she goes away. Yes, anytime she goes away. Oh yeah, she goes away.
Go to 0 dB.
The very thought of you, and I forget to do the little ordinary things that everyone ought to do. How many roads must a man walk down before you can call him a man? How many seas must a white dog sail before she sleeps in the sand? How many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? How many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? How many deaths will
That's where we had to suck out before.
Too many people have died.
This whole thing is very flat now.
Answer, my friend, is blowing the wind. The answer is blowing the
It sounds good too. Definitely sounds fuller. A little less hollow.
Skip the light fandango, turn cartwheels across the floor. I was feeling kinda seasick, but the crowd called out for more, and the room was hung as the ceiling flew away. When we called out for another drink, but the wind
Well, I'm gonna chalk this up as a win because I think they sound really cool, man. They sound nice. I am interested to hear what various instruments sound like, or what frequency ranges things like, you know, drums cover, or what frequency range guitar covers, or the male voice or the female voice, or cymbals. So that might be kind of an upcoming video where I, you know, now that I have a full range speaker, I can kind of test what those different elements are like, especially when they're broken down individually. In the meantime, though, there's one song that I really, really dig, and I'd like to hear it on these. It's for my personal enjoyment, and you're gonna laugh, I know, but it's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. But it's not the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer you might be accustomed to hearing. That guitar sounds like it's right in the middle of the speakers, right above the receiver.
The sound that you're listening to
So does his voice.
is from my guitar that's named Lucille. I'm very crazy about Lucille. Lucille took me from the plantation. Oh, and you might say, brought me fame. I don't think I can just talk enough about Lucille. Sometimes when I'm blue, it seems like Lucille try to help me call my name. I used to sing spirituals, and I thought that this was the thing that I wanted to do.
Drummer actually sounds like he's on the right
But
side.
somehow or other, when I went in the army, I picked up on Lucille, started singing the blues. Well, now when I'm paying my dues, maybe you don't know what I mean when I say paying dues. I mean when things are bad with me. I can always, you know, like, depend on Lucille. I'll talk to you myself. I guess I'll let Lucille say a few words and then. You know, I doubt if you can feel it like I do. But when I think about the things that I've gone through, like, well, for instance, if I have a girlfriend and she misuses me, and I go home at night, maybe I'm lonely. Well, not maybe, I am lonely. I pick up Lucille, and it bring out those funny sounds that sound good to me, you know. Sometimes I get to a place where I can't even say nothing. Look out. Sometimes I think it's crying. You know, if I could sing pop tunes like Frank Sinatra or Sammy Davis Jr., I don't think I still could do it. But Lucille don't want to play nothing but the blues. I think I'm pretty glad about that. Cause don't nobody sing to me like Lucille. Sing, Lucille. Well, I'll put it like this. Take it easy, Lucille. I like the way Sammy sings, and I like the way Frank sings. But I can get a little Frank, Sammy, a little Ray Charles, in fact, all the people with soul in this. A little more Henry Jackson in there. One more, Lucille. Take it easy.
Just going to interject one comment here. The observation I wanted to make is that there's more of a, I want to say, transparency to it now, with that mid-bass region more filled up. You know, if increasing that sound pressure level of that region, you know, we're down almost 20 dB at 300. Now I've brought that up to baseline now, right, or up to our datum. So yeah, the bass, the low bass, is still there. That hasn't changed, but now it's got the added fullness of the mid-range and mid-bass section, which is it's pretty. It plays tricks on your head because it sounds like there's not as much bass anymore, but There is, because it's there, you know, and we can see that on the frequency response. So the difference being almost a difference between sitting at home listening to hi-fi and then standing in a bar listening to a band. There's that kind of a fullness to it. So I think that I think I made a move in the right direction by piggybacking those capacitors on that crossover. Is it a hack job? Absolutely. Not the way you should do it at all. Definitely not the way you should do it at all. But for playing around with what I got at home here and trying to improve the sound, yeah, it worked, right? So I don't think it's causing any harm. We were listening to B.B. King, Lucille, and what I had noticed was, just an observation, was that with more of the mid bass filled in, because remember we were down by almost 20 dB at that 300 hertz range. So a gap literally from, say, man, it was like probably from 400 to 200 was that kind of gap, right? And so by piggybacking some capacitors onto the existing crossover, total hack job, but don't do that, you know, I mean, hey, it's what I had at home and it's what I wanted to try, so I tried it, it worked. I'll leave it like this, I think. I'm getting a pretty good flat frequency response. But anyway, when I was listening to Lucille, so nothing changed on the bass end. It was still the same, had the same capability of deep bass, and it was playing back bass just fine. But it was a lot fuller. That mid bass region really filled it in and almost gave it the illusion that there was less bass than there actually was. But I know that's not the case because we can see that on the frequency response. And my analogy of that would be if you were, say, listening to, I don't know, hi-fi at home or in your car or something where it was obviously, you know, you're listening to studio recordings and stuff over stereo, but then you go to a bar and there's a live band playing, and that kind of forwardness, that full range sound is just kind of there, present in your face, almost like a wall, you know, and yet transparent or has depth at the same time and directionality. Because like before, with just the low bass, as much as that was running good, and it still is, without the mid bass, a song like Lucille would be really lacking a lot of information where he's playing guitar, where his voice comes in at. So it really gave it a lot of presence. The song before that, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, with the drum bit, the drum solo in it, again, really cool, because it's like you could hear that, the snare and everything else, just nice. So that's that full range speaker, that's my mid-range, putting that sound out there. But where I'd left off is that I wanted to play back a couple of songs that were more bass heavy, ones that were obviously bass heavy to me, and I would use them, listen to them. I really like the songs. One of them is my favorite. It's like, okay, so Peggy Lee, old artist, old recording, she does Fever. A lot of artists do Fever, but if you ask me, nobody does it like Peggy Lee. I mean, that was one heck of a song. The other one is the Waltz from The Godfather, which is very intricate orchestral music with a lot of low end coming in there. So I wanted to play those two songs just to kind of assess for myself, as well as demonstrate how not losing bass, not taking any low bass away, and not doing anything more than what we had done previously, trying to smooth out the mid-range and tweeter, but just by bringing that mid-range, that mid-bass up, right? How it can fill it in and add more to the music that you're listening to. So now that profile is a little more even, a little more flat, we're going to hear more musical information in the sound pressure level range, the volume that we should hear it at. So I'm going to play these couple of songs, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do.
Never know how much I love you, never know how much I care. When you put your arms around me, I get a fever that's so hard to bear. You give me fever when you kiss me, fever when you hold me tight. Fever in the morning, a fever all through the night. Sun lights up the daytime, moon lights up the night. I light up when you call my name, and you know I'm gonna treat you right. You give me fever when you kiss me, fever when you hold me tight. Fever in the morning, a fever all through the night.
It sounds like she's
Everybody's got the fever.
in front of me.
That is something you all know. Fever isn't such a new thing. Fever started long ago. Captain Smith and Pocahontas had a very mad affair.
See, that's an area that is low.
When her daddy tried to kill him, she said, Daddy,
Right
oh,
where her
don't
voice
you
is.
dare give me fever. With his kisses, fever when he holds me tight. Fever, I'm his missus. Daddy, won't you treat him right?
Nice. No weird spike.
Now you've listened to my story. Here's the point that I have made. Chicks were born to give you fever, be it Fahrenheit or centigrade. They give you fever when you kiss them. Fever, if you live, you learn. Fever till you sizzle. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn.
So before that song, it sounded fantastic. And man, that bass, that low bass, the doom, doom, doom. It sounds so cool. But what happened is, like, because I managed to get this 300 region up, I didn't even realize it, but like, that's right where her voice was. And, you know, I mean, that's where it's Peggy Lee is pegging at. Boom, right there. So pretty much anything in that range was getting lost by 20 up to 20 dB. Like, say it rolled off pretty sharp, that suck out, it rolled, you know, it really cut off pretty sharp. So yeah, there was quite a bit of information that was missing there. So the sound now is much more, it's got a lot of presence. I mean, a lot of presence. Like, she literally sounded like she was standing here singing. It was pretty cool. I don't know if you can hear it on your headphones or anything, but that's what I'm hearing here. Well, let me play this. I'll go ahead and keep going with this Godfather thing. That's a good one too. strings are at. Right in that area that had the suck out. This sounds so much better. Yeah, that really sounds so much better. All that musical information I was missing and I didn't even know it. That's crazy.